everybody. Purpok here, and welcome back to another episode of Race the Ramen, the show where I attempt to review something unscripted and the amount of time it takes to boil an instant ramen. And today we'll be taking a look at Diary of a Wimpy Kid, 2021, showing now on Disney+. Alright, we're going to start the timer right now. Okay, so, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, or rather, the newest version of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, because there have been other adaptations of this book series before. If you're not familiar, the Diary of a Wimpy Kid books came out. They started coming out about 10-something years ago. I read the first few when I was in middle school, and that's what the books are essentially about, a wimpy kid stuck in middle school and how it sucks. I think the relatability of that topic and just universal nature of a lot of that is what made it appealing to people, and silly little cartoonish drawings. Eventually, we got a couple live-action adaptations, which are also on Disney+, right next to this new movie, which, to be honest, is probably doing it a horrible disservice, because just even by itself, this new animated adaptation of the first book, just called Diary of a Wimpy Kid, it's pretty bad. Like, it's far from, like, the worst thing I've ever seen. I've seen, a lot of people have been saying it looks awful, it's, like, one of the worst things of the year. It's bad, but I think it's more, like, lazy and just surprising in how lazy it is than it is bad. It's really only just about, just over an hour long 3D animated adaptation of the first book that it kind of skips a couple things and moves things around and doesn't really give a lot of attention to some of the more enjoyed characters. There's not a lot of time spent with Roderick, who I'm led to believe is the fan favorite. He's basically only in one scene at the very beginning. The voice acting is totally middle of the road, except for the mom, who for certain scenes, I swear to God, phoned in her audio, literally, through a Zoom call, and you can tell it sounds terrible. And yeah, it's just a really generic, not very energetic or cartoonish cartoon. There's not a lot of jokes, just in general. And again, the energy of the animation is really weak. The renders and stuff are fine. I mean, you can't do a lot with Jeff Kinney's weak-ass noodle arm designs from the original books. They don't necessarily lend themselves well to 3D. I'm usually against live-action adaptations of animated stuff, but it's a book, it's a little different. I never really cared enough to watch the live-action films, but that's a more interesting and worthwhile endeavor than just, hey, let's make essentially a modern-day equivalent of a straight-to-DVD movie of the first book that's already like 10 years old that we've already adapted. And it's got Disney's name on it. It was directed by, like, someone who's literally never directed anything else, except maybe this one VHS tape from the 90s. I can't even find out. And it just looks cheap and feels phoned in, and it has the big Disney logo ahead of it, and it's got this big book franchise attached to it. Again, I've seen worse, but it's just this apathetic, pointless waste of a movie. Hopefully that gave you a decent impression of what I think of the movie. Again, I might have railed into it a little harder than I meant to. It's really not the worst. If you watch it, the worst thing I can say about it is that you'll probably just have felt like you wasted your time. I didn't find this to be, like, painful or, like, aggressively bad, but I still want to give it, like, a really low score. I'd give it, like, a 4. If it was, like, I don't know, released by anyone else. But the fact that this is this enormous franchise that has like 13 fucking books at this point, and they've made multiple movies already, and this is an animated film on Disney Plus with Disney's big booming logo right up front. All of these things, I'm going to have to give Diary of a Wimpy Kid 2021 a 3 out of 10. Again, I'm really not that personally invested in this series, not to the extent that a lot of people are. There's a lot of memes and stuff these days. I guess a lot of people have like nostalgia and some genuine and ironic enjoyment for this franchise, but I don't really, and I like to think I'm a generally unbiased person when it comes to reviewing movies and stuff, so I went in expecting it to be kind of bad, but wanted to give the benefit of the doubt, and no, it's not that great. If you're a fan of this series, don't watch it. If you're anyone else, don't watch it. Even if your kids like these books, just show them the live-action movies, or show them something better. kids deserve better than this, at least, is what I'll say. It feels like a movie made by an algorithm. And you know what? A completely random thing, but in regards to the story of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the cheese touch, like the fact that that cheese just sits in the courtyard forever. Like, why would no one at the school clean that up? It's fucking cheese. Get a broom.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
And today we'll be taking a look at Tove, streaming now on Amazon Prime Video. Alright, we're going to start the timer right now. Okay, so, Tove. This is a Finnish biopic about the author and cartoonist Tove Jansson, who is the creator of the Moomins, which you might not be that familiar with, but you might have seen them in passing. They're those little, like, hippo cow critter things that talk funny from the classic comic strips and children's books. And this is not so much a story about the like creation of those characters. It is relevant to the story, but that is really not what it focuses on. It's more about Tove herself discovering who she is as she like comes into her own as an artist and as a young woman. It takes place just shortly after World War II in Helsinki, and she's like, struggling to make a living with her paintings. And then she kind of begins this secret relationship with this theater director named Vivica. This is all based on like true events of her life. I don't know how accurate it is, and I'm generally kind of a stickler for those kinds of things if I am familiar with the story. I am not always on board for based on a true story movies, because I don't know. For me, it's like if you have to change things and make it further from the truth, why make this a story? Pick something else, or just write a different story. So again, I can't testify to how accurate this is, but it feels like a really like earnest and mature sort of thing. It manages to like discuss all these issues of like post-war relief and sexual discovery and like imposter syndrome, mental health, how people were like holding all these parties and like trying to like distract themselves from their problems and everything. The struggles that Tove faced as a person, as an artist too. And it manages to make it just this wonderfully presented, very grounded and mature feeling story about growth and self-discovery with a really loose, like atypical sort of narrative structure. I guess you could say it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, but it mostly just feels like a series of kind of vignettes. People just living their lives, basically. It takes place over the course of, I want to say, about 13-something years. A great period of time. There's a few time skips. So you see periods of this woman's life as it goes on, and like the power dynamic back and forth between characters. Lots of great acting, lots of really good performances and nuanced facial expressions that really carry most of the story. A lot of strong visual storytelling, which is complemented by a really nice, understated, like somber, really kind of beautiful score. I like the way it's shot really well, really up close and personal all the time. Interesting colors and like a lot of good like lighting, green and dreamlike and fanciful. It's not for everyone, but I found it really entertaining and engaging. I recommend Tove. Hopefully that gives you a decent impression of what I think of the movie. It's hard for me to review movies that I don't want to completely spoil or are based on true events and stuff like that, because it's easy to spoil yourself for that. But for what it's worth, I went into this movie knowing next to nothing about Moomins or the author herself. I came out really satisfied with what I had watched, and I'm glad that I sought this movie out. I might not have seen it if it weren't for just some random list I saw on Letterboxd from someone who saw it at a festival. I don't remember who that was, so whoever you are, thank you. Yeah, Tove is pretty good. You don't mind subtitles and stuff. It's an engaging romance, a story about an aspiring artist, period piece. It's a really just good little movie, and not a lot of people have been talking about it, so maybe you should give it a watch. I give Tove an 8 out of 10. Maybe one of the better movies I've seen this year. It did technically come out last year, but it didn't get a wide release outside of festivals in its home country and stuff until this year, so I'm counting it, whatever. It's good. Maybe if you like Moomins, it could use more Moomins stuff, and I think the ending's a little weird and some pacing problems. But again, really enjoyable, very well made, very worth your time. Could have used more Snork Maiden. I don't know much about Moomins, but I know that if there had been more Snork Maiden, it would have been better. Hey, thanks a lot for sticking around for the whole video if you have, by the way. And I wanted to say that this is probably going to be my last Race the Ramen of the year. And my plan is to try and release at least one more bigger video before the year's over, probably after Christmas. So, yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way, and happy holidays if I don't see you guys soon. Said that last time, but, you know, it's government basis. Have a good day. Be gay, draw Moomins, and Greg Heffley is a little bitch. Good night.